Hello there, this is the Views Expressed Live. It's not a podcast. Still feeling, well, kind of crappy. But we're going to get through the next 2 hours. Not a problem. This is the 16th of October 2012. Thank you for listening. I want to give a big round of applause to Paranormal Phil, who had a featured article on the Spreaker blog. So congrats there. Paranormal Phil of PRT Paranormal Talk, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 p.m. Pacific. Now, getting on to this show, The Views Expressed. Why do you listen? Just kind of curious. Email us at libertyandfreedomnetwork@usa.com, libertyandfreedomnetwork@usa.com. To follow along, you can go to Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook. We have a lot over there. There is a video that you will see. It's called Public, quote-unquote, Education Has Become Indoctrination and Distraction, which it has been for many, many years, actually. There's a picture there of Jeffrey Tucker, who says, "Someone asked me the other day if I believe in conspiracies." Well, sure, here's one. It's called the political system. It is nothing if not a giant conspiracy to rob, trick, and subjugate the population. I could not agree more. Also, there's another picture there of a CEO, Don Barrett. No, I shouldn't say CEO. He's a lawyer. Don Barrett is an attorney. And the little headline there reads, "Big Tobacco Lawyers Target Food Industry." Don Barrett likes his opponents powerful and rich. He is a lawyer whose decade-long battle to force the tobacco company to admit they knew cigarettes were addictive and pay the medical costs of victims was depicted in the film The Insider. He and his colleagues eventually forced a settlement that cost the industry over $200 billion, or 124 billion pounds. The lawsuits made Mr. Barrett a very wealthy man, but he says it is not the potential for another big payout that is now making him target big food. So we got somebody who's working on our side in a small way. Also, we have FEMA Corps graduates a first class of 18 to 24-year-old youths. FEMA is enlisting youths to assist them in whatever a federal government deems necessary in the event of an emergency. I have a picture there of hours at minimum wage needed to afford rent. In no state can a minimum wage worker afford a two-bedroom unit at fair market rent, working a standard 40-hour work week. You'll see that there. But along with that, I saw another picture of the United States. Islamic terrorist network in America. Some of the states in the previous map that I told you about, well, show up in this map of the Islamic terrorist network in America. Go check that out. And of course, there's a picture of Amber Lyon. You can follow her on Twitter at Amber Lyon. And yeah, it is now criminal for journalists to be against this president. And here's this little tidbit of information before we go to break. Meteorite hunters now need a government permit. Isn't that lovely? Military NCOs hunted homeless people with paintball guns. And of course, I'll be getting into my analysis of what the debates are going to be like tonight. Also on Liberty and Freedom Network, you'll scroll down in an article, myscienceacademy.org, an article by Suzanne Posel, Digital information can be written onto DNA. So why don't we all check all those out? Go to Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook. Check those wonderful articles out. In the meantime, we shall be back right after this. You're listening to the views expressed on Liberty and Freedom Network, broadcasting live on Spreaker.com.
Late Night in the Midlands is an alternative media that covers the truth, theory, and fact that the lamestream media won't talk about. We cover everything from the known and the unknown, the normal and the paranormal, the government lies and the government ties, and even their thrive. We tell what's coming, what's going, whether it be politics or archaeologists. We have an amazing fan base, and our shows are all archived to be heard millions of times more. So tell your friends, your family, and anybody you care about LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Become a member and be informed.
Come listen to Journey into Light with your host Michael Long. The show is about looking into the afterlife. Where do our souls go from here? What are the true messages from above? Everybody is family, so make a journey into light with Michael Long your home. With the best guests on the show, they share the love with all who call in and those who are in the chat room. That's Journey into Light with Michael Long, Sunday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, on blogtalkradio.com/Journey into the Light. Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is looking for you. Are you a voice actor looking to hone your abilities? Are you a writer looking for actors? Then Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is for you. If you are a voice actor or a writer of sci-fi themed radio plays, send your information to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. For more information, go to eastlandradiofilms.wix.com/eastlandfilms for more information. If you are a voice actor, send your audition clips to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. This is The Views Expressed. I am your host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce, for the 16th of October, 2012. 15 more days. Halloween, right? Yeah, we got a bunch of scary crap happening in Washington, D.C., don't we? Yeah, I'll tell you what. Go to Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook. Follow along with the bouncing ball. Well, not really. But anyway. There's an article up there called Digital Information Can Be Written Onto DNA. This is Suzanne Posel over at myscienceacademy.org. She writes, bioengineers at Stanford University have successfully, quote, recombinized, mediated DNA inversion, unquote, meaning encoded, stored, and erased digital information within living DNA cells. Can you say neural nets? Continuing, the findings were published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. This research could be explained as a non-volatile memory, a computer terms that cites how information can be stored without consuming power. They invented a device called the recombinase addressable data module. The team used RAD to tweak a section of DNA located in microbes. They measured the microbes' response to ultraviolet light. The microbes glowed either red or green depending on how the section was influenced or turned on or off. Lead researchers Jerome Bonnet said, quote, "It took us 3 years and 750 tries to make it work, but we finally did it," unquote. Bonnet, Pacboom, and ND took natural enzymes adapted from bacteria, then reapplied them to flipped targeted sequences of DNA with specific back and forth commands. This binary digit of analogous data was encoded into living cells. Pacboom explained, quote, "Essentially, if the DNA section points in one direction, it's a 0. If it points in another direction, it's a 1. Programmable data storage within DNA of living cells would seem an incredible, powerful tool for studying cancer, aging, organism development, and even the natural environment," unquote, ND said. One possible implication of this discovery would be the allowance of researchers to count how many times a cell will divide to aid in turning off cancerous cells before they become problematic. And this article first appeared in Occupy Corporatism. And like I said, can you say neural nets? Look at the character of Lieutenant Commander Data on Star Trek. Seriously. You can also look at the picture that says military NCOs, non-commissioned officers, hunted homeless people with paintball guns. This is from Police State USA, Land of the Checkpoints on Facebook. Police State USA, Land of the Checkpoints on Facebook. From Arizona, a 5-month investigation of Army National Guard conduct has uncovered a systematic patchwork of criminal and ethical misconduct. The wrongdoing uncovered was concentrated among military recruiters who often visit high schools in search of teenage recruits. National Guard investigators found that non-commissioned officers, known as NCOs, engaged in sexual misconduct, collected recruiting fees to which they were not entitled, forged guard documents, and committed other offenses such as hunting the homeless with paintball guns. Quote, "You're not aware of the bum hunts?" That's what the question was asked. You're not aware of the bum hunts? That's at www.azcentral.com. Click on the link there associated with that article. There are so many things that we have to really pay attention to. And I know I get on here and harp about it all day long and throughout the whole show, and I'm probably preaching to the choir, but in terms of what's going on outside of our little world, in our homes, in our businesses, you want a reality show? You just go walk around downtown for an hour. You'll see reality. You'll see people not caring. You'll see people with what I call tunnel vision, or here in where I live, in the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada, you'll see what I call casino vision, which is they've got one thing in mind: going to the casino. You'll see all sorts of things around this town. probably around your area as well. But the fact of the matter is that we have to pay attention. There is no other way of looking at it. We have to pay attention. Okay? Period. End of sentence. Okay? A lot of people would say, well, all the stuff that you talk about and all that, well, it's just a conspiracy theory. Really? I just read you a picture. Caption on a picture from Jeffrey Tucker. Let me tell you this again. Someone asked him, so Jeffrey Tucker's words are, someone asked me the other day if I believe in conspiracies. Well, sure, here's one. It's called the political system. It is nothing if not a giant conspiracy to rob, trick, and subjugate the population. And that is really, really true. I cannot say, I cannot say how true that is, because it goes beyond. It just goes beyond what we understand. And I was sitting back before the show thinking about, well, in the last 100 years, how did we get here? Financially, personally on that level, economically as a whole of the country and all of that. And I found that there were 4-year cycles in all of the problems that we had. It took them 4 years. It took them probably more time than that to create the problem. It took them 4 years to implement the situation for the people to react, problem, reaction. And it took them many more years, 8 to 12 years, to come up with a solution. Problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution. And guess who perpetrated all of that? That's right. Big Brother. The one people you call your federal government. I want to say that it's not the person themselves. As a whole, it is the group. For instance, the story, and you can go find this, it's now out in public. You got to dig for it. CBS News reported back in 1968 when they heard that there was something happening in the Gulf of Tonkin out near Vietnam. Well, the ship pulled into port. CBS News was there and asked the people getting off the boat, hey, we heard that you got hit and had some trouble out there. And the people on the boat, the Navy personnel and all that are going, nothing like that happened at all. Nothing. Commanders were coming out years later and saying nothing happened. But it got us into Vietnam. There was a false flag event. There was an event prior, in 1991, prior to those citizens of America being over in Iraq with Saddam Hussein. Remember those few days that he wasn't going to let them go and get out of the port? Well, George H.W. Bush, King Bush the First, sent troops over there, and Saddam Hussein went, oh, wait, I better let him go then. But in 55 days, we pretty much ruined him. The thing is that our government created a lot of the problems in the world. Our government, U.S. government, along with British government as well. The OSS, which is now the CIA, and the British intelligence put Hitler into power. Put Khrushchev into power. Put all these people into power to be their assets to the New World Order of that time. See, a lot of people, even in the 30s and 40s, were going, something's not quite right here. I remember seeing reports in 1951 to 55, 54, 55 in the Korean conflict. Okay? Saw reports back then. I mean, these were all public documents now. They've been declassified or unclassified or whatever it is. You can see them for yourself. Go look it up. There were so many things that our own, very own government, Washington, D.C. specifically, created. Got us into war. Got us fighting amongst ourselves. Okay? And that's what they want. That's what our government wants. They want us to fight amongst ourselves. They want to throw out a problem all over the United States, causing us to react, and then they come in with the solution while at the same time creating wars and havoc overseas in other countries. Why? To fulfill the purposes of their New World Order bosses, period. Remember when George H.W. Bush, King Bush the first, as I like to call him, was in Congress or talking about 1,000 Points of Light or the New World Order? Go to YouTube, look it up. George H.W. Bush, New World Order speech. And you'll see it. Go to YouTube. By the way, YouTube, Google, who owns YouTube, is pretty much shutting down channels that criticize the government. If you have a YouTube video that criticizes the government or whatever, Google will come along and shut it down. Why? It's called censorship. It's called we don't have a First Amendment right anymore. Okay? Now let me just, I'm going to bottom line it here because I only got a few minutes left, but I'm going to bottom line it here and say this. I don't have a problem with President Obama. I got a problem with his policies. Okay? I don't have a problem with the man. I got a problem with the man's beliefs and policies. That's what I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with Romney. I think Romney sounds like a decent guy to sit down and have a glass of wine with. I mean, you know. But I don't like his policies. Obamacare is a carbon copy of Romneycare that Governor Romney used in Massachusetts. By the way, it's also a carbon copy of Hillary Care, which in 1994 she tried to get passed under the Clinton administration. Oh, and isn't she so noble now to take the blame for what happened to Ambassador over there in Libya? Isn't that so sweet of her? Oh, yeah. She knew it all along. Isn't that kind of crazy when you look back in 2008 when you saw these, two go off into a hotel and talk and they make deals and they come out and she's Secretary of State and you see what happened? She protects the president by throwing herself into harm's way. While behind the scenes, people are trying to make sure that he still either stays in or she gets the blame for it, brings in Romney. Romney deals with it. If Romney comes in, I don't think she's going to have a job after a year. I really don't. And I don't have anything against Hillary Clinton. She looks like a pretty decent person. I don't like her policies. I really don't. Matter of fact, I'm nonpartisan, so I really, both parties, I don't really care. I don't vote independent. I don't vote Republican or Democrat. Well, why? Because the Democrats want to take everything away. Okay? They want to take every self-supportive thing away from each individual and have you dependent on them. The Republicans want to restrict you from getting everything that you need to support yourself. And they also want to take over the whole world, metaphorically speaking. But one wants to give everything and take everything from you. The other wants to restrict you so you can't get the things that you want. You see, they both work for the same people. Goldman Sachs, George Soros, Think Progress and Media Matters, funded and I think owned by George Soros, tells our mainstream media what to say what to do, how to say it, when to say it, all of that. Now, when I get back from the bottom of the hour break, I'm going to go into Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook. Follow along there if you would, please. Thank you. Like the page. I will tell you, I will give you another story here about how the U.S. government is preparing for biological attack and mass fatalities in America, and have been doing so since 2008. Okay? So, we'll come back and start off the bottom of the hour with that one. I want to remind you, now, I will be the first in line to admit I don't know everything. And I'll also admit that I could be wrong on some things. This is why I need your input. I need your input. So email me at libertyandfreedomnetwork@usa.com, libertyandfreedomnetwork@usa.com. I'm dumbfounded most of the time. Because I read this stuff, and I read the headlines, and I read little blurbs, and I put it up on Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook, and I'm just, with what I've read, and I read the article to you, and I stop, and I'm really dumbfounded as to why people are not waking up. Why they are not yelling and screaming about any of this. You see what I'm saying? I'll tell you what. When I get back, I'll give you my analysis of what, and I'm not going to watch the debates, but I can tell you who's going to pretty much, win, if you will, the debates. I think they're on now, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm not looking. I don't have another feed here on my computer. But there are so many things that we have to pay attention to. And as I opened up the show earlier at the beginning of the show, we need to pay attention. We need to pay attention. A lot of people don't. Even the people who are awake and aware, sometimes they don't pay attention. Then again, if you did pay attention, I don't think you'd be in the situations you're in now, would you? A little something to think about, isn't it? And this is Reverend Wayne S. Pierce. This is the 16th of October, 2012. October already. And you're listening to the views expressed right here on the Liberty and Freedom Network, broadcasting live on Spreaker.com.
Listen to Angel Clark Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Radio Freedom News Network. RadioFreedom.us.
Have you heard about a show called Diane and Wayne's Grab Bag Potpourri? It's a talk show. Well, it's called Grab Bag Potpourri for a reason. They talk about everything under the sun, from education to politics, from lines at the cashier in the stores to parking lot drivers not paying attention. You want real radio? Well, you don't get any more real than that. That's Diane and Wayne's Grab Bag Potpourri talk show. Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a whole lot of fun.
We went to the streets to ask people, what do you like about Doc FM?
Oh, well, I think he's sexy. He has a very sexy voice, and he makes my headphones tingle.
I think the doctor is very smart. Everything he tells you, you must learn it, because it is smartness to know. Plus, he plays my favorite music. He plays like the 80s and the 70s and the 44s and the 62s.
J'ai pas eu une seule occasion de rester sans rien faire depuis que je suis arrivé à Camelot. Je suis trop occupé à courir derrière Arthur. Fais ci Merlin, fais ça Merlin. Et quand je cours pas derrière Arthur, je fais des corvées pour vous. Et quand je fais pas ça, j'accomplis mon...
Doc FM on Spreaker.com.
Well, it's no secret that Doctor won't play none of that countrified music, so I don't really listen to him that much, but when I do, it's a hoedown. The first time that I listened to the Doctor, he was making fun of the British. After I got over my attitude, I came back and listened to him. He's wonderful and raucous.
Listen to Doc FM every Saturday evening, 7 p.m. Central, right here on Spreaker.com.
Are you an actor looking for a place to promote your work? Do you do voiceover work and want others to hear what you do? Go to Eastland Entertainment and get your work seen and heard. Eastland Entertainment is your one-stop shop in the Reno, Nevada area for all of your entertainment needs. Eastland Entertainment will promote your work for you. Eastland Entertainment also produces original short films and radio plays through Eastland Radio Films. For more information, contact them at eastlandentertainment@usa.com or go to the Eastland Radio Films website at eastlandradiofilms.wix.com/eastlandfilms. That's eastlandradiofilms.wix.com/eastlandfilms. Are you looking for an alternative to your normal everyday radio? Well, check out KTRNradio.com. Jay Towers and Brian Keller bring you everything that you ever wanted to know, and even if you didn't want to know it. Go check out That Radio Show with your host, Jay Towers, and That DK Show with your host, Brian Keller, on KTRNradio.com.
It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Do you wear your sunglasses at night? Well, maybe you do some other crazy things too. Why not add The Sandy Fox Show to your list? You can find me on Spreaker.com, Icecast.org, and TuneIn.com. Fox out.
Listen to Angel Clark Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Radio Freedom News Network. RadioFreedom.us.
Yes, you are. You're listening to the Views Expressed right here on the 16th of October, 2012. We are on the West Coast. It is 36 minutes after the hour. We are broadcasting live from the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada, in FEMA Region 9. Broadcasting on Spreaker.com. This is the Liberty and Freedom Network. If you want to follow along, you can. Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook. Check it out. From OccupyCorporatism.com, the one and only Suzanne Pozel posted yesterday at Occupy Corporatism. Spreaker.com. U.S. government preparing for biological attack and mass fatalities in America since 2008. Folks, don't go out and say, well, somebody on Spreaker was saying that they were doing this and they're going to do... No. I'm not saying this. The information that I'm reading to you is saying this, so stop telling people that I said this. Let me tell you what to tell people. Go listen to the views expressed live on Spreaker.com. The host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce, that would be moi, does not condone violence but supports defense. I am pro-Constitution, pro-Bill of Rights, pro-liberty. And if anybody has a problem with that, that's your problem. Pardon me, you can still, if you can, you can still tell that I'm not feeling all that great, so I'm sipping on some hot tea. So every once in a while, you'll hear the slurping of that. U.S. government preparing for biological attack and mass fatalities in America since 2008. In 2008, a report from the Commission on the Prevention of WMD Proliferation and Terrorism identified a clear and present danger of biological attack in 2013. The Congressional Committee claimed that the Middle Eastern nations like Pakistan were the most likely to be the origination of such an attack against the U.S. or various other points across the globe. Focusing on Pakistan's nuclear capability at the time legitimizes naming them as a possible breeding ground for terrorist dissension. The report states that, quote, unless the world community acts decisively and with great urgency, it is more likely than not that a weapon of mass destruction will be used in a terrorist attack somewhere in the world by the end of 2013, unquote. Terrorists are expected to, quote, obtain and use a biological weapon than a nuclear weapon, unquote. This is due to the complexity of transporting a nuclear weapon and the ease by which a biological agent could be introduced into the environment, which could wreak untold havoc. Because there is access to biological and nuclear materials from, quote, poorly secured and thus vulnerable to threat by those who would put these materials to harmful use or sell them on the black market to potential terrorists, unquote. At the time, President George W. Bush, King Bush II, as I like to call him, used the 9/11 Commission to justify his agenda in moving toward, with the police state implication after 9/11, with legislation such as the USA Patriot Act of 2001. Then Senator Bob Graham explained at a conference that a biological or nuclear attack was expected by the U.S. government to be enacted by a terrorist group from the Middle East, and that diplomacy must be the focus of the newly appointed Obama administration to combat this analysis. Graham said that, quote, the consequences of a biological attack are almost beyond comprehension. It would be 9/11 times 10 or 100 in terms of the number of people who would be killed, unquote. He explained that in 1918, millions of people were killed by the Spanish flu that ravaged the globe. There's a little video here. I'm going to play it, but you'll hear the audio.
It was our conclusion, based on 250 interviews with academics, scientists, intelligence, military, and political officials, that it is more likely than not that a weapon of mass destruction will be used someplace in the world prior to the end of the year 2013. We also found that it was more likely that that weapon would be biological than nuclear. We also found that our margin of safety has been diminishing. That is not because we have not been doing important things. In many areas, we have improved the security of the nation. However, while that has been occurring, there have also been changes in the environment in which we are operating, particularly as it relates to biological weapons, which have made them more accessible to potential terrorists.
The terrorists are organizationally sophisticated enough to get either the nuclear or bioweapons, but the bioweapon would be even easier for them to get and then to weaponize, and also for them to reload or to repeat. In other words, if they get a nuclear weapon, it's likely they'd only get one, at least initially, because you have to come up with nuclear material to do it. But if they isolate a pathogen and are able to weaponize it, there's no reason they wouldn't be able to make more than one weapon and attack more than once. And since you don't know necessarily that a biological attack is occurring, that's a real possibility for them. So we have a big focus on bio. We say to the government, look, you need to shift away, not away from, but not just on consequence management, trying to deal with the effects of an attack, but to be more aggressive in trying to prevent it, in particular by building a culture of accountability and a partnership with the life science community, reforming how we regulate the high containment labs where they work on these kinds of pathogens, and have a single agency responsible. On the nuclear side, there's a number of important recommendations with regard to the nuclear regime, the international protocols. In addition, we say focus on Pakistan. And of course, we decided that some time ago as a group, and then the events of the last weekend just show one of the reasons it's important. Pakistan is the epicenter of a lot of these dangers.
The first person you heard was Senator Bob Graham. The second person you heard was Representative Jim Talent. Now, my question is, I'm just saying let's put this out here, if they already know about this, what's their next step? What's their next step? If they are fully aware of the fact that there might be a biological attack by the end of 2013, what is their next step? Let me ask you a question. You know, I'm a big football fan. I like the Niners, and I like Titans, and I like the Jets. Yeah, I'm all over the place. But if you sat down for a moment, you had the playbook, you had both playbooks, and you looked at what their plays were, could you not construct a way to make the game more fair? In other words, if you knew that they were going to do an end run and a passing play and get the player down into the goal, would you not create something to stop that from happening? Okay? I, myself personally, would think that you would. So in this case, knowing full well, as it says here, unless it says here, Congressional Committee claimed, this is 2008, that the Middle Eastern nations like Pakistan were the most likely to be the origination of such an attack against the U.S. or various other points across the globe. Okay, they know who. And now they're saying, focusing on Pakistan's nuclear capability at the time legitimizes naming them as a possible breeding ground for terrorist dissension. In other words, terrorists are going to go there because they know the U.S. can't do anything to them. And then it says, the report states that, quote, unless the world community acts decisively and with great urgency, it is more likely than not that a weapon of mass destruction will be used in a terrorist attack somewhere in the world by the end of 2013. That's what Senator Bob Graham was saying. My question is, if they already know this, know who it was, or know who it is what's the next step in our parade? What is going to happen? You know what I mean? I can't sit here and prognosticate something and say, well, this is going to happen. I mean, I can, but I won't. But I will say this. Put two and two together, folks. You've got the U.S., you've got Canada, you got Mexico. We're pretty much the North American Union. You've got a president here that number one is an illegitimate administrator. He is not a citizen of the United States of America by any stretch of the imagination. His father was Frank Marshall Davis, the communist, or the one back then, at least in some reports, some papers that have come out. And we have a president who literally does not like the Constitution, does not like America, does not like free enterprise, does not like what's happening with you and I being as free as we are to do whatever we want. He has even said, in his own statements, has said that Islam was part of America way back when. Let me tell you something. No, it wasn't. Ever. Okay? And no, this country wasn't a Christian nation. Go find the list of people who signed the Declaration of Independence, who signed the Constitution of the United States of America, and look at what their religions were. Look at what churches they went to. They were not, I shouldn't say all of them, most of them were not Christian. But the idea and the symbolism that America is Christian has been that way for over 200 years. Bite me. The reason why we left Europe was because of the fact the Church of England was being tyrannical and we could not do a damn thing over there. Okay? There was this thing called the Magna Carta. Some of our ancestors read it and thought it was a really good idea. Some folks brought that idea over to the new continent, the new world. And guess what? Some of the unwritten history, or should I say revised history, and actual history was taken out of it. Apparently, the settlers here sat down with some of the American Indians at that point and saw how they were dealing with certain issues of trade and all of that, and looked at that and decided, hey, that's a good idea. What kind of an agreement, what kind of a document do you have that you can come into agreement with that you guys can do this without killing one another? And they showed him. And guess what? Some of that became the Constitution and the Bill of Rights of the United States of America. And then we shove what we call the American Indians off on little pieces of land we call reservations. We take them off of their land and we put them someplace else. Kind of stupid, don't you think? It's kind of what we do when we go into other countries and occupy other countries, isn't it? Yeah, I said it. We occupy other countries. We're not there to fight the war of independence. We're not there to fight some war to keep our freedoms. No, we're not. Under UN doctrine and under globalist control, The United States Armed Forces is nothing more than the police force for the New World Order. Okay? Seriously. Oh, and don't think we're left defenseless. No. You and I can still defend ourselves. And don't think military is not off of the continent. Not all of them, anyway. We still got National Guard and others here. But we do have a military here, though. It's not the United States Armed Forces. Yeah, we have a military. They're training. They're looking into other things. But they're from Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and Israeli army and Russian army and Chinese army. They're all here training in the United States. Go to startpage.com, put in the search engine, foreign military training in United States. Go look it up. Matter of fact, I get a few minutes before the top of the hour break, so foreign military training in the United, if I can spell, States. Okay? Let's go to March 1st. 2011, last year. I clicked on it. Christian Science Monitor, U.S. military assistance for foreign forces, a wise investment? The U.S. military dispenses billions of dollars to foreign forces each year. Pentagon says the investment boosts diplomatic leverage, citing the Egypt crisis. Critics say it does little to advance U.S. goals. They're right. I'm going to put that on Liberty and Freedom Network, on Facebook. Please go check it out. For those listening to the podcast after the show. But I'll tell you something. The military of other countries is here in the U.S. Oh, and that's not all. Wait, there's more. Is jihad coming to America? Peter Kling, K-L-I-N-G, Peter Kling, on his Facebook page, put that up. Is jihad coming to America? He writes, when we consider the extremists believe America is the great Satan in the history of the United States has in the Middle East, this may be a very serious threat to the government and why they are having military drills across the country. Military drills. The next war in the Middle East may also be Battlefield America. Let me count this out for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 states. 18 states. Washington State, Oregon, California, Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Illinois, Virginia, Ohio, Michigan, New York, Boston, Maryland, North Carolina, Florida, Indiana. Those are the states that have Islamic terrorist networks in the United States. I can go down the whole list, but why not click on it yourself on Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook? 18 states. Okay? When I get back from the break, I will get into some other things as well. And I want to talk about a little bit about minimum wage. So I got a picture there on Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook that says hours of minimum wage needed to afford rent. In no state can a minimum wage worker afford a 2-bedroom unit at fair market rent working a standard 40-hour week. Now I got to tell you, we need a fair market living wage. Now a lot of people would say, well, we can't have a wage that equals the cost of living. Why not? That would put businesses out of business. Oh, okay. But consider this. If Ben Bernanke is just going to the Treasury and printing money and pulling money out of his wazoo and making figures up out of thin air called derivatives, our money is not going to be worth a thing. So minimum wage is non-existent at this point. And your dollar that you have in your pocket will not be able to buy you anything. See, we're moving from the paper. We'll still have it, but it'll be backed by strategic drawing rights. Go look that up. SDRs. Go to startpage.com. Strategic drawing rights. Your dollar in your pocket will be backed up by that, and it will be virtually worthless. Okay? It's not going to have the value to buy whatever it is you need to take care of yourself. I'm not a financial guy. Hopefully I'll get one on the show. But that's what's going to happen. So at the top of the hour, I'll talk a little bit about that. I got some stuff. Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook. Check it out. You're listening to The Views Expressed right here on the Liberty and Freedom Network. We're broadcasting from the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada, on Spreaker.com. This is the Views Expressed right here on the Liberty and Freedom Network, broadcasting live on Spreaker.com from FEMA Region 9, biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada. We're in Washoe County. We're up here on a mountain in a valley. If you've ever been out in this direction, you know. Yeah, Nevada, going like the way of California, right down the chute. You know what I'm saying? All we got to do is wait for someone to flush. You know, seriously. Hey, got a program note here. Friday, we will have the one and only Angel Clark from the Angel Clark Show, RadioFreedom.us and LibertyRadioNetwork.com. We will have her on. We've only got her on for a half hour, so please tune in. She is filled with information. She has her own show. Go check it out. It's called The Angel Clark Show on RadioFreedom.us. We also have coming up next Friday on the Diana and Wayne's Grab Bag Potpourri Talk Show. I know, that's a mouthful. Just say Potpourri Talk Show. We have none other than, on October 26th, Marie D. Jones, that she'll be on. She'll be talking as well. Yes, live radio and the phone is ringing. I know. Is that annoying or what? They'll get the voicemail. Anyway, we got a lot coming up this week. I'm trying to get other people on the show as well for different perspectives. I've got 3 people that contacted me that wanted to be on the show. I have to get back to them and get them on the show to give you their perspective on different issues, because this is the Views Expressed. Different views about different issues. Now, I want to ask, when you go to the bank, pretty much people have direct deposit, don't we? When you go to the bank, actually, let's go before that. When you get your check or your check stub, because you got direct deposit, and you look at how much money you make, is it enough? Is it enough? We need a fair market living wage. That's what we need. Not a minimum wage. Get rid of the minimum wage. Here's why. We need a fair market living wage. Okay? On Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook, you'll see a picture. It has the United States on it, white, blue, and darker blue colors. And it says hours at minimum wage needed to afford rent. In no state can a minimum wage worker afford a 2-bedroom unit at fair market rent working a standard 40-hour week. Hours needed to afford an apartment. Now you're looking at 2-bedroom apartment. In California, you would have to work 130 hours a week on minimum wage to pay for a fair market rent on a 2-bedroom. That's 3 times more hours per week. Little over. In Nevada, where I'm at, in the Silver State, you need to work 92 hours a week to afford rent. Now, this is on minimum wage. Minimum wage in Nevada is $8.25 if they do not offer you a health coverage plan or that type of thing, or $7.55 if they do offer you that type of plan. Okay, and this was as of 2009. Okay, this is like 4 years ago, so I don't know what the minimum wage is now, if it's gone up or changed. I'm not sure. Okay, but get this. In Hawaii, you have to work 175 hours a week on a minimum wage to pay for a 2-bedroom apartment. Okay? The minimal hours. I'm talking 40 hours a week here. Just a minimum 40 hours a week. Standard 40-hour week. Puerto Rico. I did not know that was a state, but obviously it's a province. You have to work 55 hours a week. Okay? In Montana, you have to work 66 hours a week on minimum wage. That's also true for Mississippi to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. So my question to you is, are you making enough? Now, some people would say, well, what's a fair market living wage? I would say a fair market living wage. I'm saying fair market living wage. But let me add this. Per region, because some places the cost of living is really high, wages are low, and you suck, and you got to work 130 hours a week on minimum wage to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Or the cost of living is way low and you're making all kinds of money. Okay? So I'm talking fair market living wage per region. Okay? First of all, we have to determine what a fair market living wage is. Okay? And as you hear me typing away, May 30th, 2012, from takingnote.blogs.newyorktimes.com has the same information I just read to you. Now, let me tell you what Andrew Rosenthal says about it. He says, as part of its 2012 report on rent affordability, the National Low Income Housing Coalition released a chart that's been floating around the internet. It shows that there isn't a single state in the country where it's possible to work 40 hours per week at minimum wage and afford a 2-bedroom apartment at fair market rent. In West Virginia and Arkansas, you'd need to work at least 63 hours a week, and that's as good as it gets. In California, Maryland, D.C., New Jersey, and New York, you'd need to work 130 hours or more, and Hawaii comes in at last place at 175 hours a week. And let me continue. Andrew says here, I can anticipate a few big deal arguments starting with the definition of affordability. By affordable, the coalition means paying no more than 30% of income for housing costs, rent, and utilities. And why 2-bedroom apartment as opposed to a 1-bedroom? Both of these choices seem reasonable to me, as Andrew says. That would be Andrew Rosenthal over at New York Times. 30% is generally accepted standard, and there are plenty of single-parent households as well as families where, for various reasons, only one member is able to work. Excuse me. But even if you quibble with how exactly the coalition put the chart together, it's clear that there's a mismatch between the minimum wage and the cost of living, or at least a decent cost of living. In New York, which is in the midst of a fight over raising the minimum wage, 2 individuals would need to work 68 hours a week each to manage the rent on a 2-bedroom unit. If they have kids, 70% of their paychecks left after rent won't go very far. I'm going to interject something here. San Francisco, the city of San Francisco in California, has raised their minimum wage to $10.25 an hour. It's not enough. If anyone has been to the city, I used to live in California, used to go there all the time. Continuing, when he was campaigning for the presidency, Mr. Obama promised to raise the federal minimum wage annually. That hasn't happened. It's the same as it was in January of 2009, $7.25 an hour. According to Bloomberg View, that amount adjusted for inflation is actually lower than what a minimum wage worker earned in 1968. Somehow, I doubt Mitt Romney will highlight this particular broken promise in an attack ad, but that's no reason for anyone else to give the president a pass. We literally, I want to say this. Thank you, Andrew, over at New York Times. I want to say this. Abolish the minimum wage. Now, I know people are going to say, well, unions fought for that. Abolish the unions. What are you saying? Your father and your brother work for a union? Yes, they did, thank goodness. I would have people argue with me going, your dad worked for a union and that's how you got as much as you got. Really? My dad wasn't making $15 an hour after 30 years of driving truck. Hello? When I knew truck drivers were making anywhere between $17 and $22 an hour. Certainly not in Stockton, California, that's for sure. But I knew it. Go look it up. Correct me if I'm wrong. National average for local truck drivers. Go look it up. My dad delivered to stores all over, almost everywhere in the San Joaquin Valley. But he wasn't making anywhere near $17 an hour after 30 some odd years of driving truck. So don't give me this crap that your union is going to give you a better paying job. It won't. Abolish minimum wage, abolish the unions. You put down a fair market living wage per region and you adjust for the inflation rate, not for anything else. Trust me, it will work. Any of you number crunchers out there, you want to give me some information? Let me know if I'm right or wrong. I'm not going to judge you. I'm just wanting to know. Send it to Liberty and Freedom Network at USA.com. Liberty and Freedom Network at USA.com. Hey, one of my friends tried to call the show, so I'm gonna take a little break here at the 20 after mark. It's gonna be a long break. We'll come back for a longer segment to the top of the hour. So, yes. But anyway, yeah, you number crunchers, send all your information. Anybody, send your information to Liberty and Freedom Network at USA.com. Liberty and Freedom Network at USA.com. This is the views expressed right here on the Liberty and Freedom Network. Do you want liberty-minded radio? There's no other straightforward radio you will ever hear than The Angel Clark Show. Join Angel Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern at www.radiofreedom.us. That's The Angel Clark Show, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern at radiofreedom.us. listen to The Sandy Fox Show, playing a variety of music including rock, pop, and country. The Sandy Fox Show is a production of the Force Radio Network. You can find her and all of the great FRN shows on Spreaker.com, Icedcast.org, and by searching for Force Internet Radio on TuneIn.com. You can also find great mobile apps on TuneIn.com to take the live shows and replays with you. The Force Radio Network, real radio for real people. Want more entertainment value than your dollar can buy you at the movies? Listen to the Chris Top Program on Spreaker.com.
Late Night in the Midlands is an alternative media that covers the truth, theory, and fact that the lamestream media won't talk about. We cover everything from the known and the unknown, the normal and the paranormal, the government lies and the government ties, and even their thrive. We tell what's coming, what's going, whether it be politics or archaeologists. We have an amazing fan base, and our shows are all archived to be heard millions of times more. So tell your friends, your family, and anybody you care about LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Become a member and be informed.
Come listen to Journey into Light with your host Michael Long. The show is about looking into the afterlife. Where do our souls go from here? What are the true messages from above? Everybody is family, so make a journey into light with Michael Long your home. With the best guests on the show, they share the love with all who call in and those who are in the chat room. That's Journey into Light with Michael Long, Sunday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, on blogtalkradio.com/Journey into the Light. Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is looking for you. Are you a voice actor looking to hone your abilities? Are you a writer looking for actors? Then Eastland Sci-Fi Radio Theater is for you. If you are a voice actor or a writer of sci-fi themed radio plays, send your information to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. For more information, go to eastlandradiofilms.wix.com/EastlandFilms for more information. If you are a voice actor, send your audition clips to Eastland Radio Films at USA.com. This is the views expressed right here for the 16th of October 2012. I am your host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce. If it sounds like my voice is all screwed up, that's because my sinuses are all messed up and I'm drinking tea. So, give me a sec. Thank you. Anyway, welcome to the show. This is the bottom of the second hour. We have 30 minutes left. Couple of things. First of all, I had to call back a friend of mine because she had a question. What is the meaning of right to work? Well, when you go back into the 1930s, you'll look under the Taft-Hartley Act. Go to startpage.com, type that in. Taft, T-A-F-T, Hartley, L-E-Y. And you will see what it truly means. Basically, it means, instead of me just popping off my top of my head, let's go to startpage.com. Actually, let's go to Wikipedia. I know. Why are you going to Wikipedia? That's nothing. Why are you doing that? Bite my shiny metal ass. Anyway, let's go to Wikipedia and look under right to work state, right to work law. We can do that too because it popped up right to work law. Let's do that too, and I'll tell you exactly what it means. First of all, give you a little rundown on what's happening this week. We're going to have Angel Clark from the Angel Clark Show over there at radiofreedom.us and libertyradionetwork.com on the show Friday for a half hour. We're going to get her perspective as to what's going on around Delaware and around Washington, D.C., and we'll get her view on the debates that are happening tonight and everything else. And we'll get a rundown on her show and all that. Again, I'll have Angel Clark from the Angel Clark Show, radiofreedom.us, libertyradionetwork.com. Right to work law, according to Wikipedia, is a statute of the United States of America that prohibits union security agreements or agreements between labor unions and employers that govern the extent to which an established union can require employees' membership, payment of union dues or fees as a condition of employment, either before or after hiring. Let me sum it up to you in layman's terms here. The traditional, quote-unquote, the traditional meaning of that is you have a right, you have a choice of whether or not you want to join your union. I suggest not to, but you can do whatever you want. Continuing, right to work laws exist in 23 United States. 23 U.S. states, mostly in the southern and western United States. Such laws are allowed under the 1947 Federal Taft-Hartley Act. Oh, did I say the 30s? Sorry. 1947, passed by President Harry S., or I should say prior to the passage of the Taft-Hartley Act by Congress, over President Harry S. Truman's veto in 1947. Unions and employers covered by the National Labor Relations Act could lawfully agree to a closed shop in which employees at unionized workplaces must be members of the union as a condition of employment. Under the law in effect before the Taft-Hartley amendments, an employee who ceased being a member of a union for whatever reason, from failure to pay dues to expulsion from the union as an internal disciplinary punishment, could also be fired even if the employee did not violate any of the employer's rules. The Taft-Hartley Act outlawed closed shops. The union shop rule which required all employees to join a union after a minimum period after their hire, is also illegal. As such, it is illegal for any employer to force an employee to join a union. A similar arrangement to the union shop is the agency union, under which employees must pay the equivalent of union dues but need not formally join such union. Yeah, so there you go. Nobel laureate economist F.A. Hayek endorsed right-to-work laws, writing, "If legislation, jurisdiction, and the tolerance of executive agencies had not created privileges for the unions, the need for special legislation concerning them would probably not have arisen in common law countries. But once special privileges have become part of the law of the land, they can be removed only by special legislation, though there ought to be no need for special right-to-work laws. It is difficult to deny that the situation created in the United States by legislation and by the decision of the Supreme Court may make special legislation the only practicable way of restoring the principles of freedom. Footnote, such legislation, to be consistent with our principles, should not go beyond declaring certain contracts invalid, which is sufficient for removing all pretext to action to obtain them. It should not, as the title of the right-to-work laws may suggest, give the individuals a claim to a particular job, or even, as some of the laws in force in certain American states do, confer a right to damages for having denied a particular job, when the denial is not illegal on other grounds. The objections against such provisions are the same as those that apply to Fair Employment Practices Law. A February 2011 Economic Policy Institute study found, oh, by the way, what I just read was F.A. Hayek. Go look him up. Hayek. F.A. Initials, F.A. Last name, Hayek. Hayek. A February 2011 Economic Policy Institute study found that in right-to-work states, both the unemployment rate in 2009 and the cost of living were lower. According to Daniel DeSalvo, this leads to public sector unionized workers causing budgetary problems in states without right-to-work laws such as New York, Michigan, California, and Washington due to their greater wages and benefits. While the collective bargaining is conducted between the state and the labor unions, the taxpayer's role is largely ignored in the process. The Bureau of Labor Statistics have published statistics that demonstrate that since 2009 in size, the public sector has surpassed the private sector with respect to unionized workers. There's opponents, and that is under proponents. And opponents argue that the right-to-work laws restrict freedom of association by prohibiting workers and employers from agreeing to contracts that include fair share fees, and so created a fair rider problem. The absence of fair share fees forces dues payers the absence of fair share fees forces dues paying members to subsidize services to non-union employees who are bound by the terms of the union contract, even though they are not members of a union. Thus, these individuals benefit from collective bargaining without paying union dues. The AFL-CIO union argues that because unions are weakened by these laws, wages are lowered, and worker safety and health is endangered. For these reasons, the union refers to right-to-work states as right-to-work-for-less states or right-to-fire states, and to non-right-to-work states as free collective bargaining states. So you see, right-to-work states suck big time. They all need to go away. Okay? Because Here's what needs to go away. Right to work states, at-will employment policies, minimum wage, and believe it or not, unions. Now, how are you going to collectively bargain in a free state? I say free state without having a union representative there. You don't need a union representative. You need a united federation. Not a union. A united trade federation, not a union. Think about it for a minute, folks. A united trade federation is literally non-political, non-partisan. They're there in the middle stating, let me see your view, looking at client A and looking at member A, or, the client being the work, the business, and member A being the laborer, you and I. Look at both. Here's what the laborer wants. Here's what the company can afford. Blah, blah, blah. They come to an agreement. It's as simple as that, folks. But see, here's the problem. We are so litigious now. Oh, I'm not getting my way. I'm going to sue. Really? Try me. See, somebody told me with a union, a company can't do that. And with a union, an employee can't sue the company for saying that they're not going to pay, like I just read, basically is what it was. In layman's terms, folks, the bottom line is this: we don't need unions. Why? Hey, they were great when they started out in the 30s and 40s. They were fantastic. Now look at them. Corrupt as hell. From the inside out, they're corroding from the inside out. For those unions that are on the up and up, that are doing well, that are helping people and out there doing what needs to be done, great. I give you a virtual high five. But for those unions whose members are just, let's just say, connected in some way, but not to the people, yeah, you people need to go to jail, okay? Have you read Boss of Bosses? Have you read books outlining what unions truly are or were back in the 30s and 40s? And who infiltrated them after World War II? Actually, it was before that. It was probably 1937, 38. Yeah. Have you read about Meyer Lansky? Shall I go on? Yeah, I think you get the point. We need to get rid of right-to-work states, period, end of sentence. We need to get rid of them by a constitutional amendment stating specifically getting rid of the minimum wage, at-will employment policies, and implementing a fair market living wage per region. I say per region for a reason. As in New York, as it is in California, cost of living is freaking out of sight. Just read you that thing about minimum wage workers at 40 hours a week trying to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Can't do it. Got to work over 130 hours a week. So we need wages consistent with, number one, inflation. Number two, the value of the work, not the person in. Excuse me, let me rephrase that because there's a whole lot there. I almost said it the wrong way. I had it in my brain one way and it came out another. First of all, inflation. That's how you pay people according to the inflation rate, not according to anything else, other market trends, blah, blah, blah. You get rid of all that. Pay a person a fair market living wage per region, taking into consideration the inflation or the cost of living in that area. the next thing you do is you look at what the person's experience is worth within that particular position, not what the business thinks the position is worth. In other words, how much is that person worth in position A? Not how much is position A, let's just throw somebody in there. No. It works out a lot better the other way, the first way I mentioned it. Okay? A lot of people would say, well, my company would go broke if I had to pay people that. No, you wouldn't. Hello, crunch the numbers. Don't look at this crap like, well, if I paid my people like that for the next 2 years, I'd be out of business. Really? Are you not selling your product or service enough? How come? Now, years ago, tell some stories about myself. My first ex-wife worked at a place that had automatic knitting machines. It was huge. It was they would create ski wear, like scarves and knit caps and all this kind of thing. Her alone was doing the work of 3 people, she said, on average. 3 people. And she was making, at that time, not a whole lot. And this was close to 30 years ago. Okay? Yeah, and I was young when I got married. Oh, yeah, this was, quite a while ago. 28 years ago. Hello. So, yeah. I know people now that are doing the work of 1 or 2, or 2 or 3 other people by themselves, not making a whole hell of a lot of money. That is why you look at the person's worth within, now get this, their experience, how long they've been doing it, yada, 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 all of that. How much are they worth in that position? Not how much is that position worth. Let's just throw some illegal alien in there and let them do it. No. I want you number crunchers to send me information pertaining to this. How much company XYZ pays X employee, how much. Give me the rundown of the cost between current standards of payroll compared to a getting rid of minimum wage and paying someone a fair market living wage per region. Give me the rundown on the numbers. Send that to Liberty and Freedom Network at USA.com. Liberty and Freedom Network at USA.com. As a matter of fact, if you send that to me, hey, you want to be a guest on the show? Send that information to me at Liberty and Freedom Network at USA.com. Liberty and Freedom Network at USA.com. There's so many things out there. Let me go back to Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook and give you some other things as well. Things I didn't get into. So, how about this? From Police State USA, Land of the Checkpoints on Facebook. That's the name of the Facebook page. Police State USA, Land of the Checkpoints. FEMA is enlisting youths to assist them in whatever the federal government deems necessary in the event of an emergency. Really? Really? In Texas right now, they're building domes on the coast of Texas, or on the, excuse me, in an area of Texas. Domes. Hello? What are they doing? Let's see if I got it here. I don't. Sorry. Yes, they're building domes in Texas. The DHS has bought 1.4 billion rounds of ammunition bought up guns last year or the beginning of this year. The Pentagon told law enforcement all over the country, hey, we have surplus equipment. We just built brand new equipment, got surplus equipment. It's yours. All you got to do is pay for the shipping. This is what the Pentagon said to law enforcement. Any law enforcement personnel out there, send me information as well. Now, what's going on? You can read about the FEMA enlisting the youths at FEMA.gov. There's a link there on the photo at Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook. There's just so much. Just so much. Check this out. Check this out. There's a picture of Amber Lyon with tape over her mouth. County jail. Has a load number up there, all that. Catch her on Twitter at amberlion.com. Or Amber Lyon. I think that's her also at her website as well. Lyon, Lyon. Says here, if by change President Obama meant criminalizing journalism in the United States, then he's succeeded. Why should you care? President Obama was bold enough to use the Espionage Act to subpoena the New York Times journalist James Risen in an attempt to force him to give up information on a CIA whistleblower. Risen accused the administration of trying to silence journalists and refused to acquiesce, stating, quote, "Can you have a democracy without aggressive investigative journalism? I don't believe you can, and that's why I'm fighting." Amber Lyon's picture has her standing there with a county jail number underneath of her and black tape over her mouth, and the words, "Now a criminal. President Obama has abused the 1917 Espionage Act to subpoena a record number of journalists and whistleblowers. We won't give up our sources, and so he's turned journalists into criminals and created a chilling effect on investigative reporting." Do you see now? Do you see now? You do not have a freedom of press. They want to pull that away, suppress that, so you and I, as citizen journalists, cannot get out the information or research the information so that you can be enlightened and educated, so that you know how to take care of yourself. Once our freedoms are gone, we are going to have to fight like hell to get them back. And that is going to be difficult. Not going to be impossible. It's going to be difficult. Okay? Go to Liberty and Freedom Network on Facebook. Check this out. Got a picture there of some police hauling somebody out of a house. Letha, Idaho. Police on their way to a domestic argument had already profiled the homeowner as a quote-unquote constitutionalist. When they arrived at the home, they ripped the woman outside at gunpoint and cuffed both residents. Then they proceeded to search the entire home without a warrant on video. The officer clearly was looking for drugs, not, quote-unquote, clearing the house or the home. This family had their privacy violated. Searches like this are illegal and reprehensible. Hat tip to Pro-Libertate, a wonderful blog focusing on the police state. Go to freedominourtime.blogspot.com. The links are all there on the picture associated with the article. Oh, and by the way, one last thing. Got the debates tonight, but check out this picture. This person's working in a factory building a motor, an engine for a car apparently. And he says he got a $1,000 performance bonus. He was taxed at 25% because it's considered, quote-unquote, income. Shows a picture of Governor Romney. He got $7 million performance bonus. He was taxed at 15% because it's considered, quote-unquote, carried interest. Different rules for different classes is class warfare. So don't give me this crap that Romney's any better, okay? Just don't. Obama and Romney are bought off by the same people, Goldman Sachs, who are getting their marching orders as far as the debate is concerned and what they should say and how they should say it and all of that by Media Matters, Think Progress, all of the organizations owned and funded by George Soros, who in his youth hauled Jews to the camps. Now, I want to say this in the last 6 minutes I got. You can do whatever you want. You are free to do that. You are free to say whatever it is you want to say and express yourself in whatever manner you feel comfortable doing. You have that right. You have that right. What you don't have a right to do is whatever the government says you shouldn't do. Let me spell this out for you, make it real simple. 4 words. I will not comply. What Washington, D.C. is doing right now, what they are proposing, what they are doing immediately behind the scenes as we are being distracted by everything else, is taking laws away that we have lived with for as long as we've been on this planet and this country's been in existence, and they're throwing those out the door and replacing them with illegal laws. Well, I'll just say what it is. An executive decree. From last count, I think Obama has signed over 300 executive orders. I could be wrong. I hear 900, I hear 600, whatever. He is governing by decree. The only people that used to do that are kings. Okay? In dictatorial ways. Okay? Remember those 4 words. All those laws that they're bringing in from the United Nations and from this corrupt Congress, not everybody there is corrupt. All those laws are illegal. But he couldn't put those laws into effect until he, signed the NDAA December 31st, 2011. We are now under and living in a police state under dictatorial rule in what used to be the United States of America, which is now the North American Union. It is our obligation to stand up against illegal laws, for they go against all the principles of the people that put this country together. The people that signed the Declaration of Independence. The people that signed the Constitution of the United States of America. And do you really want to wake up tomorrow knowing that you gave George Washington a black eye? You want to wake up at the end of the week or on the weekend thinking, I'm going to go camping, and realize that you kicked Thomas Jefferson in the shin, that you slapped Benjamin Franklin across the face, that you punched John Adams in the gut? Do you really want to have that in your mind? Because if we allow the illegal laws to be implemented in the United States of America, we the people will go down in history of being people who were cowards that wouldn't defend the principles of liberty and freedom. Or are you out there wanting to be Benedict Arnolds? Think about it. Who stands for the United States of America should remember 4 words. I will not comply. I will not comply, and neither should you. Come back tomorrow. The views expressed Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Liberty and Freedom Network. We're right here broadcasting live on Spreaker.com. Remember these words as well. We the people have the power, for we are America.